That's how it's gonna be, a little test tube.
It's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
Guy steps out of Times Square station, smashes it on the side.
The Zero Net Review, a show dedicated to handcrafted studies of genre fiction. I'm author DC McNeill, and I'm joined as always by Patrick Laverne, a madman holed up in an airport with like 20 cats.
Yeah, well, hey man, I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a terrible guy.
Ah, you do bad things, but you're not a bad guy.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, I feel that. And as always, J.M. Anderson, a man who, after the end of the world, has finally found a semblance of peace.
Oh, thank you. At least I'm not a crazy cat person, so thank you.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I was like, that might be too mean. I've been giving you mad shit this week. Maybe it's time to, like, take it back and, take it back a couple degrees. Welcome back to our continued study of the post-apocalypse genre, brought to you by the Zero Indent Patreon subscribers, so I make the shows and articles that shape Zero Indent. Today we're reading the third and final book of Peter Heller's novel, The Dog Stars. Hey, spoilers, this is a really good book, I think, maybe, is what I've decided. I don't want to, like, forecast any of my thoughts here, but I think this might be a good book. Yeah, Pat, what did you think of the this last section and the book overall?
I also think it's a good book. It's been a few weeks since I read it, so excuse me for not remembering many details. But the things at the top of mine, it got very steamy. Got very intimate in a lot of different ways, and I sort of that codified the book for me a lot, and sort of see what it was doing now. I mean, the road is sort of similar, deep, dark introspections, but this feels a bit more real because it's a bit more neutral. I mean, it's happy at the end of the day, and that is a different, it is just a straight up like happy book. I feel the ending makes it that, and it's subversive. It's different than what we're used to in our apocalypse unit. So for that, I really think this was a great addition to our unit. Yeah, it's like makes you think, maybe every apocalypse story isn't like the absolute hellscape that you normally see. Not to say that this world is roses and all that, but it's good. I liked it. Little notes.
It's like a happy book about the fact that like being alive is kind of good, turns out.
Yeah,
which is, hey, we don't get a lot of that in post-apocalypse. Mostly it's like, is an existence a living hell at all times?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree. JM, what about you?
I'm right there with Pat. It's been a couple weeks because as soon as we finished the last recording, I hopped into bed and read the entirety of book 3 that same night. I could not wait, and I enjoyed the entire rest of it. I don't know enough about literature to feel like I could qualify it as being like a good or bad. I just would say that I really, really enjoyed it.
I have a degree. I'll say it's good. I'll do that. I'll take the heat if they come for us.
Because the stuff that I say is good, you're immediately cringing and like, ooh, no, it's not, buddy.
Yeah,
so
but
now I've backed off on that.
That's because you have bad taste. That's not anything about the books we read.
One thing, I mean, Pat mentioned the steaminess, and that did hit me. I was like, I had said that the protagonist in I Am Legend, the novel, was the horniest character that I'd ever read, and now that has been usurped by this book.
It's true.
But it also never got to the point where I was like, I'd be uncomfortable reading this in public or something like that. I don't know if that really makes sense. Like it was there, but it wasn't like overt enough to be super awkward. I don't know if that
it was
description
tasteful.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's like tasteful and erotic, but it wasn't like gross and smutty. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes, that's what you expect to find in your post-apocalypse fiction. Some tastefully erotic
Yeah, I
stories.
mean, this is like quietly a romance novel, it turns out, which I was not really expecting. Just like at a genre
little
level,
bit.
it's doing some pretty interesting like maneuvers as far as like what an apocalypse is capable of. Um, I think the other thing that is worth saying is that so I did a bit of reading. So I've had a crazy fortnight. I've been traveling a lot for work. I've just been delirious without sleep, and I've been reading a bunch of Heller's other stuff. Um, Basically everything before this is what I would call travel memoir writing. So he's not written fiction before this. This is his first published fiction. Then everything after this is fiction, and it's all very similar in style and form. Like one of them is like a woman and her child in like a dystopian future. One of them's like a guy gets lost with his dog or whatever in like the wilderness. Like he's very much a guy who writes self-contained stories about like a handful of characters. Like he's not like he's not the kind of genre writer who's going around being like, and this is how I imagine a society. Like he's very much zeroing in on individual people, which I think is both a strength and something that maybe limits the scope of this book in a way that produces and exerts pressure on what he has to do with these characters. And I think there's a criticism that I've read of this book of like, oh yeah, like of course Hig and Cima get together. Like what else could possibly happen? But like, yeah, that's what Hell is doing with the structure of the book. He's setting that up as the only possible outcome. But I guess we'll talk about it and how neat it feels, because I do think that's a valid criticism of any novel where, especially an author like Heller, if this is his mode of producing novels, which is here's a couple of characters in a location, I think it can sometimes feel quite pat and neat. Not pat the person, but pat like the feeling. But when you do have these, these characters end up in the most obvious superposition. Like they're almost like pre-configured positionalities based on the structure of the books. And I'm curious to see where we land on that because I haven't quite made up my own mind. But I loved it. I think pound for pound, maybe I keep forgetting we covered Emily St. John. I was going to say maybe the most fun I've had reading a book, but nah, there's Glass Hotels. It's a hard one to topple.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Pat, when you're ready, can we please see the summary of Peter Heller's The Dog Stars, book number 3?
Hig prepares Cima and Pops to leave the farm. In the fortnight leading to their departure, Hig and Cima grow closer in strange, closing, concentric movements. One night, Cima climbs into Hig's hammock. Over the next few days, the pair navigate the pain and trauma of their past lives, and at last they find a way to be together. Then it's time to leave the farm. Cima and Hig leave without incident and meet up with Pops, which feels too easy. They still need to stop for fuel at some point. And they do, pulling low in an airport just as Hig notes the burned husks of other planes and spots a wire trap. He pulls up at the last second. He and Pops hide the plane, then they go full commando and kill the old woman and old man responsible. They refuel and head back to the compound. Bangley is nowhere to be seen. After scouring the airfield, they find Bangley upstairs in his house, bleeding but alive. Cima nurses him back to health while Pops and Bangley get along famously. Hig takes Cima to see the Mennonites. She immediately realizes the disease can only be transferred via internal exchange of fluids and sets to work treating them. So begins a new life, and just as things settle into a new normal, strange Russian aircraft fly overhead, unreachable on the walkie. Hig and Cima lay under the stars, awaiting whatever comes next. That's all we read for today.
This type of ending to a novel is what Kim Stanley Robinson calls the slingshot ending. And he specifically uses it when he's describing Gene Wolfe. And what he means by that is not a slingshot like a slingshot, but rather like the slingshot mechanism of like of a aircraft, a spacecraft, hitting escape velocity of a planet. Where he kind of talks about this idea of like there's a way you can end novels that go, and that's the ending, and everything is settled. And then his proposal, like the slingshot ending, is, and then you go, but actually this is the start of another story, and then the book kind of slingshots away from you, and you're kind of left wondering what happens next. And that's certainly how this ends. I think quite deliberately as well. It implies there's something else happening in the world, which is smart. I think otherwise it might be like, well, now they're just happy together. I don't know. I think it's good.
Did we ever look up what her name means?
Yeah, we did. It's like an old cowboy film. It's like a
It's
reference to an old
also
cowboy film.
it's also the Spanish word for wild and or untamed, and historically used to describe escaped livestock. Um, all of that stuff like really applies to her family owning the ranch and all this kind of stuff. And she quotes Spanish to him at some point, and now I'm like questioning like what ethnicity these people even are, because it doesn't really say.
I mean, it's pretty safe to assume like vintage white American. We get a lot of descriptions of her like paleness and blue
Oh yeah,
eyes
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
You're right.
Yeah. Not that it matters. But yes. Sorry. Why did you ask? You just Googled the name for the first time.
Well, you've had me on a very strict no Google rule, and I've adhered to that. So now it only happens while we're talking.
Okay. It's mostly so I could do a thing at the end of this episode, which is really funny. Okay, I guess we should start. So they're preparing to leave the farm, and it's very practical, like the preparations and stuff like that. There's some interesting stuff with like Higgs' backstory we get kind of passed through when he's talking about like the like spreading manure, and he's like talking about how the soil on the farm is much better than the soil they have on their farm. And I've just written in my marginalia, who knew there was more than one soil? I'm not an outdoorsman. I don't know this stuff. You know, apparently that's a thing.
Cool. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course
you
it
gotta
is. What do
fertilize
you mean?
it, and then you have to like swap out the different. Like you don't want to always plant in the same area every single year, because you have to let it like regrow all of the nutrients in it. So you got to do crop rotations and all kinds of different stuff.
No, I'm pretty sure it's all just dirt, though. I think probably. I'm
It's
fairly.
always dirt, in it?
Yeah, it's just fucking dirt, mate. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, look,
So I can actually call in an authority here, because my dad is literally a soil scientist. He worked for the
Wow.
USDA his whole career.
Wow. Yeah, back when America had
war.
government institutions. I
know, right?
brother. Look, I just thought that was like a cute detail. You can tell that Hella. Now, I say this with all the love in my heart. You can tell that Hella's a giant fucking nerd by the way he writes about this soil and the way he writes about planes, and I love that for him. And that's really fun. But yeah, they're having this moment where he's thinking about this. He's thinking about the soil, and we get a bit of backstory from Cima, which she's talking about like she's kind of giving him like her life story, sort of. Twin brother, he died when we were 15 in a motorcycle. I had good grades, good test scores. I was going to be a vet, go to Colorado State, come back home, and set up a large animal practice. All my life, that's what I was going to do. We had a college counselor, Mr. Sykes. He had a very good placement record, but he controlled who went where so tightly all the kids called him Sucks. One day in English class, my junior year, there was a tap on the glass door, and he came in and handed me a folded note. It said, "My office, 12:45," during the lunch hour. I remember we were talking about the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Do you know it? And then he goes on to be like, then the response from Hig is, "I love that poem until they taught it to me in high school. Did you know there was a hidden meaning?" And Kima says, "Really?" And he goes, "Yep. Sex, art, and scholarship are all class weapons." And I've just written, this motherfucker studied Marx. Just like, yeah. But what I really like about this is she tells us a little anecdote of how she basically... There's this counselor who kind of controls where everyone gets to apply, and like this whole system of like the academia, which if you've ever been in grad school is like a pretty common thing, where like these institutional people claim a lot of the oxygen in the room. And she basically talks about like detonating this career just to stick it to this guy, which is really fun. Like she applies to a place that he doesn't approve of, and it gives us this nice, I guess, color around like who Kima is as a person. Even that early on, she's not willing to just do what the people around her say she should do. She actually goes out of her way to kind of, stick it to this guy and do the thing we all wish we could do more often, which is be like, "No, fuck you, pal." And I really like that as characterization, because it it paints a very different picture of the young person she was as opposed to the character we meet now. Like, she's very mellow now, and she's a lot more kind of, I don't know, I like it when books don't go, this is me at 15, and it's the exact same, like, personality.
I like the contrast of her, you know, being very, like, feisty when she's young, like, fighting for some future that she can steer herself towards, and then compared to now, when, you know, the whole life and the whole world is like still, and then she's like sort of looking back, and yeah, you know, like, it's all, you know, it's very like Station 11 in that way, like a full life lived with millions of decisions, with millions of consequences, and then at the end of the day, like, it all just plateaus anyway, because, you know, the whole world ends, and then, like, and she's back on her, you know, the farm where she grew up, kind of thing, and, like, you know, it's similar to Jeevan almost.
That's a good parallel.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, true. I guess I hadn't considered that. It's like, yeah, she's right back where she started. Yeah, that's that's quite poetic, I think.
I never really saw that story as giving her any, like, giving her character any more depth. Like, nothing in that, nothing in the telling of her younger self seemed to give me any more insight into her current self. It kind of seems like it was more a story relating to the apocalypse. Like, you don't have control over your future. Someone else is the one pushing the button, and you just have to hope that you're the one who's on the right side of history. And she was the one that got chosen to survive in both cases, but she had to really go and do it her own way in both cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's just an insane take. It makes sense.
It wouldn't be me.
No, I know it wouldn't be a JM opinion if it didn't make no fucking sense to me. Look, I get that. I think that it's much more literal than that. I think it's her being like, she's trying to get to know Hig, and one way that you can get to know people is to be vulnerable. I guess you could read it metaphorically in that way, but I think that probably does Cima a bit of a disservice as well if you reduce this to just be Hella doing a metaphor. Like this, the particular section I'm thinking of is the bit I've marked out where she says, I wrote about how my college counselor, so she's talking about her application to Dartmouth. I wrote about how my college counselor had demanded that I write about my dead twin. I wrote a long essay, twice as long as asked for, about a certain kind of tact that was part of ranch culture, and why I thought it had developed and why it was important, and how the fact that a ranch girl writing about her missing twin might appeal to the admissions people at the highest caliber Eastern College was another example of the disconnect between us, Eastern establishment and Western land-based people. We didn't want anybody's sympathy. I was so angry. Never been so mad, I don't think. I sent the application off without letting Sykes review it, which was strictly against protocol. Nobody had ever done it. He tried to scuttle the application. He was such a vengeful little fuck, but it was too late. I guess they were so impressed with my ranch girl grit or something. I got in, of course. Early decision, full ride. The college pressured the high school and forced Sykes to retire. You know, the part that still troubles me about all of that is that I knew I would. Get accepted, I mean. I flipped the emotional payoff they were looking for, didn't I? I was truly furious, but I also knew somewhere inside that it would make my candidacy even stronger. I've prayed about it often. Apologizing to Bo for using him to get into college. And then Higgs says, you didn't use Bo, you wrote exactly what you were feeling. This is a bit that I think speaks to what you were talking about there, Jam. Yeah, but I've often thought that the move with the most integrity would have been to blow off Dartmouth for having that kind of expectation, those values, and go to Northern State. It's an AG school, or it was. And so she kind of has this reflective moment of like, yeah, it felt good to dunk on this guy. But the thing that it tells us about her is that she's had this reflective moment, and to Pat's point, like, the world has ended. She's a different person than she was. And she looks back on this and she's like, yeah, like I got one over on this guy, but I still did the thing that he was telling me to do, which was use this, tragedy or use this like emotional leverage to trick the admissions board into letting her in. She's sort of reflecting on that mistake and going, actually, if you use the tools of the enemy, it's still the tools of the enemy. Like, you're still endorsing their structures and systems, right? Like, I think that's pretty strong characterization for me.
And she still
I
literally
like-
wrote about her brother. Like she says, like
Yeah.
Sykes was right. Like, you know.
Yeah. Right.
And I like how, like, you know, it's him forcing her into this dilemma was the exact like serendipity needed for her to actually get into the university. Like without that, like she, you know, whether she wrote a very earnest thing, like, you know, about her dead brother that the guy wanted her to write, or she wrote about something else entirely, it probably would have not gotten her accepted, right? So it's just, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I was so resistant there to the idea of reading it as a metaphor, because it's so like complete already as an idea. I think if you did want to read it like as a structuring metaphor for the apocalypse, the thing you would pull out is like you see, I even struggle to like make it line up, because it's like, well, what's the takeaway then? That like it was inevitable that she was gonna get into the school and that she was gonna survive. Like I can't make the reading work of it being metaphorical outside of just pure characterization.
This is way deeper into like writing structure than we like normally talk, but when I'm reading that seems like it'd be one of the things that I would cut from a story, because it's not progressing. It doesn't progress the plot in any way, doesn't progress the character arc, it doesn't progress the relationship. It's just a factoid.
That's
Like,
crazy. That's insane to me. It's like she's like telling him about like the worst mistake she's ever made in her entire life, and it's a romance. How is that not progressing the characters and the plot at the same time? What do you mean? Do you just mean physically it's not moving them in a space?
I guess, yeah. Like it doesn't.
Like-
Remove this section, and what changes?
What do you mean?
What the day JM makes a film, it's going to be a silent film. It's going to be all, like no dialogue. The characters just always doing something.
No,
have to
like
explain
an example of what I would be talking about, like, is if she finishes this story and she's like, and this is why I decided that I would be okay with moving on from my husband and falling in love with you. Like, that's why I told you this story, because it's directly affecting our relationship. But that doesn't happen.
What?
You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because
Well,
characters don't explain their feelings like that. They're not. I don't know. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but like the next thing that happens is Hig tells her that he killed his wife with a pillow. If that isn't progressing the relationship, I don't know what is. Like, she's vulnerable to him, he's vulnerable to her. Like, that's how trust is built. Like, that's how dating works. That's how getting to know. Like, I think I understand what you're saying on principle, which is she doesn't sit down and then go, and that's why I told you this story. Like, the structure of the conversation and the structure of how this then leads to them trying to get together and the struggles of that is the plot. Like, that is progressing the plot. It is like a structuring conversation of this novel that is moving the plot forward. I guess what you're saying is that you would want it explicitly to be closer to like in a young adult novel. That's typically where you would get, you'd have this conversation and then you'd have a character say, I've never told that to anyone before. Like that type of like signposting. Is that kind of what you mean?
Okay, so self-realization here. I think what I might be experiencing is that because I don't understand humans, I don't know why she's telling this story.
Okay.
So
okay,
I'm
okay.
like, what does she mean by this? Like, what does she want me to do? Maybe that's what I'm feeling right here.
I mean, is it possibly that like like in Station 11, for example, that's the kind of story that you're talking about, JM, where like flashbacks and characters revealing their past is directly like related to like, plans and actions and sequences that happen like later on in the actual story. Like I feel like in Station 11, like everything is like connected somehow and like physically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The flashback to at least in the show of Kirsten watching the dude die and the knife, and then she's carrying knives from then on out. Like everything is so directly connected, and that makes sense to me. But then when people like when it's not directly connected in a way that I can understand, then I'm left wondering, like, is this a writing issue where the writing doesn't make sense just because I don't understand people as naturally as others would infer the meaning here? Because like actually this whole conversation, yes, makes like I would have this conversation with my friends and I wouldn't think a thing about it. But because it's in the book, now I'm trying to understand something that the author is meaning by this that's deeper than a regular conversation between friends.
For me, yeah, I don't know. It's to what I was saying before. Like this, she's clearly reminiscing about like the most, paramount like decision and sequence of decisions that she made in her past, that ultimately didn't matter. She just ended up back on the farm. The world ended. At the time, it seemed like world ending until the actual world ended, kind of thing. And I think that's maybe the poetry that's going on here.
And see, his response actually makes total sense because like she just opened up and said something incredibly vulnerable. So now, oh, I have to open up. I have to say something incredibly vulnerable. So his response, I didn't question at all. But like, where was she coming from?
Just making chit chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to get to know each other. I don't know. That's human beings, man. It's how it goes.
Always finding lovely ways to just break y'all's brains.
It's literally incomprehensible to me to read this and be like, well, that didn't change anything. Yeah. And also, at a structural level, the next thing that happens is he accidentally walks in on her, like naked in the pond or whatever.
You're gonna say shower.
I was
Waterfall.
I was trying to be like, what's the word for the thing with the water? And it was like lake, but it's not a lake. I guess I don't know.
Lake.
I don't know bodies of water,
The nature shower. Yeah.
The nature shower. Yeah, it's me reading Off to London being like, why does he keep saying pond and lake? Aren't they the same? Yeah, it's I really like the way that they build up to this moment. Like they have this conversation, they're starting to sort of become emotionally open a little bit. It's still really difficult. They're still not really talking about some of the bigger stuff. He does say that he killed his wife, which is pretty huge. And yeah, then he walks in on her. She's standing naked in the water. And this is probably like the first. I wouldn't say this is like erotic writing necessarily yet, but it's the first sort of. We talked last time about the difference between like the male gaze and the male perspective. This is the first time that I kind of went, there's a line, this threads. It's still tasteful, but yeah, I guess I'm curious, like, where did this land on the side of like tasteful or like lascivious for you guys? Because I feel kind of two types of ways about it.
Both, yes, and.
Yeah, right?
Like, I mean, this is like quite a literal male gaze. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's looking at a naked woman, it's very descriptive. He's getting turned on, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how, like, subconscious, it's not the right word, but animalistic it was. Like, he wasn't trying. He kept like, I want to stop, but I can't.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that vibe to it.
I that's absolutely what it is. Yeah, he's like, it's like involuntary. Yeah. It's a very odd. So I don't understand what she says. So she sees him looking and she says, "How do you think she'll divide it up?" She said over the water. What? None of this seemed real. I looked back at her and she was half turned away, the small of her back where it dimpled, her sweet butt making another perfect curve. The curve that kills me, dead man's curve. I blinked. I thought, she is nothing, not a friggin' thing like one of Bangley's posters. She is like a million times more lovely. I didn't say, sorry to surprise you or anything. I said, she'll tear it to pieces. Well, I mean, I yelled it over the falls and then I turned around and fled. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Is it the bird? Because before that, reflexively I turned to look up at the wall and saw the peregrine land in the nest carrying a bird, a pretty damned big bird. What's a peregrine? Is that a type of bird?
Falcon.
Oh, I see.
That sounded like derogatory. It's a falcon.
No, I genuinely didn't know. I wasn't taking the piss. Okay, so it's a big bird that's like caught a little bird. So they're talking about that instead of. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, I think it's
Which
a really
is
tasteful way of doing this. What do you mean?
Like she knows he's watching and she's just like, hey, birds.
I mean, sometimes you just got to try and be nonchalant, you know? You got to try and be chill. You got to be like, oh, look at the bird. It is funny though, like the I don't think I've ever been that quick-witted in my entire life to be able to be like, quickly talk about bird. Like I would just be flummoxed in either direction. You know?
I had read her as like being so confident that she is like not embarrassed whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it never occurred to me that she might literally have just been like embarrassed and gone, oh, bird. That's hilarious now for me to think about it.
That's what I think is supposed to be happening, right? Is that she's like trying to deflect attention away from the fact that this has happened.
Well, she doesn't deflect anything at any other point. She's always just like fully out there.
Actually, yeah, that's true. Maybe she just genuinely is interested in the bird. Who could say? But your point about the confidence is, I think, very noteworthy. Like she is written with a very specific kind of not nonchalance, because I think that probably implies that like that implies something that I don't quite mean. But yeah, she has a quiet bravado. Yeah, that's maybe closer to what I mean. Yeah, she's sort of written to be largely unflappable in the face of things that would normally be embarrassing, and maybe that's just because the world ended and you move on from that stuff. Yeah, it's just a very particular character.
There's two other things going for her in that respect, though. One is that she's already been married, so all of the stuff that a single woman would be embarrassed about, she's experienced at some point. And two, she's a doctor, so she's already dealt with the human body in such intimate ways that a lot of doctors, like, nudity means nothing to them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, I didn't even put that together. Right. Yes, she is a doctor. Huh. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Also, she's just straight up just trying to seduce him a little as well, right? Like.
Yeah, she's toying with him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Just a bit of sport, Pat. Just a bit of good, clean fun. Yeah, but the doctor thing is actually a really good call out. That puts that together really nicely for me, right? There's I think it's how Georgia Mack describes it when she was like a nurse, where she's like, eventually you stop seeing people's bodies, you just kind of see like flesh and electricity. Like you kind of,
Yeah.
Have fun.
How fun to diminish the human existence to a massy object. How very materialist. What a surprise. Yeah, it's look, I think that what Heller is doing here is he's taking the trite, like, this is a real like modernist moment in like a typical if you think about like a knight's story type, maybe not like a picaresque, but if you think about like a classical sort of high or not high fantasy, but like a classic like kind of knight in shining armor, and there's like a maiden that that he's doting on or whatever. This is the scene where he comes upon the clearing and she's bathing and he looks away to preserve his honor or whatever. Hell is reconfiguring that scene to go, actually in a modern context, yeah, you might look, and that might lead to, and she might want him to look. The question of consent obviously is here as well. She doesn't give him consent to look. He doesn't do it on purpose, but there's still that aspect as well. Yeah, I just think it's an interesting genre decision to take that classical scene and kind of reconfigure it a bit, and to use that as as the follow-up incident to their conversation and their vulnerability to then go, Hell is then going, and how do we get to the physical part? I think it's a very smart a smart choice that removes some of the awkwardness of having to figure out how to get him to see her sexually.
Yeah. Now that you're saying that, that is a good stepping stone to building their relationship. Yeah.
I don't think him seeing her that way was ever the problem. I think it was always her trying to get over the guilt of quote unquote cheating on her husband. Because she has like a little mental breakdown after their first night together, which was all about her feeling guilty. So you have to assume the multiple nights that she spent just sleeping in the hammock with him was like her building up her courage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a both and situation, right? Like, he's still, like, he is doing the thing of, like, I have to not see her sexually because that's the responsible thing to do here. Like as a man in the world, that is, like, a thing that Hela understands in some granular detail, which is, like, as a man, you have a responsibility in how you interact and view the women in your life, and that one of those responsibilities is that in a context like this, it is probably inappropriate to view her sexually unless she gives consent and welcomes it, right? And I think that, like, yeah, Hela does a good job of splitting the uprights on that for me, where this then leads to an invitation, as you say, JM, which then leads to her climbing into the hammock, which is implied consent, and then at one point she literally gives him consent to look at her. So I think it degrosses what could be a really gross sort of male gaze type complication of how he writes these two characters.
Mm-hmm.
And because I just mentioned her guilt, I kept trying to figure out the like disease that she has, because in my mind that like exists for a reason, whether it's metaphorical or what. And to me, that came across as like a manifestation of that guilt, because it, like, when they have sex, it literally hurts her physically as much as it hurts her emotionally.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I hate it, but it's interesting. um, yeah. Jesus Christ, that's like my first, like, it's kind of thing you'd see in like a someone's first novel. You know, like, I have to try and represent the emotional trauma physically. Can I be really honest? I think the reason why she has this bruising thing is it lets Hela have Hig describe her body in non-sexual ways. I think it lets him get away with a bit more describing the physicality of Cima without it always being sexual. There's a lot of, like, that morning, she'll have like a bruise that's like disappearing off her shirt, or like on her wrist or on her neck or something. Like, it gives him a lot more latitude to describe the female body in a context that isn't sexual. Like, at a purely technical level, that's probably why I would do this. But I could also see the metaphor. I just don't like it.
He overtly describes it so much anyways, and the bruises are never in anywhere intimate, so I don't know how much that tracks. Like, you could see, like, it would add just as much for it only to be like an osteoporosis thing, or it's like only in the joints or something like that, where it still hurts her to peel the things, but it's not like literally bruising her skin from any contact. Like, what changes about the story, unless this is something else that's just in there for like context and doesn't necessarily add anything on its own?
Well, I suppose that's what I'm saying, is it's adding context. Like, it's giving, like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, not everything has to be in service of like an archetype. Like, this is literally just giving us more context for like what this human being's body looks and moves like. And to your point, maybe this, like, the fact that the fact that she has this and that, like, like, pressure hurts her, also forces or gives Hela the opportunity to write the sex differently than he might otherwise. I think it's all in service of like a broader technique, which is to in a word, decringe the romance and the kind of erotic aspects of this book,
I mean, it's also interesting that she, like we were just talking about, like the confidence and everything, and she's written as kind of like the opposite of a damsel in distress, but then she's given a physical like injury that kind of makes her a damsel in distress, where you like have to be
Yeah,
so careful about touching her because it'll break her.
that stood out to me as well. But I think that's like just trying to characterize her as like really like, you know, courageous and strong-willed, basically. Like, you know, she's doing all this physical labor even though it hurts her, like, and you know, she's as it's like hurting her body and bruising her body, she never like really complains about it. And you know, it's all characterization. Yeah. And you know, it's and you know, that's important. Like that's exactly what Hig loves about her. Like, you know, yeah.
I definitely got that at the end, when she's like helping in with the Meta Knights and all
Yeah,
this stuff,
exactly,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, you know, she's doing all this work and while she's in pain as well. So
I do like the contrast, though. I hadn't really thought about that. Of like, yeah, the strength of her personality, and then this kind of like physical fragility that she finds herself with, you know, at the end of the world. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a good like complication to this character, right? Who otherwise would be the like, you know, prototypical like strong cowgirl who's also educated, who's also funny. Like it gives a bit more sort of along with like the cheating thing, like you were pointing out, Jam, and the guilt. It gives her a bit more dimension as well, which is really important.
I also don't know if it's necessarily worth like discussing that he does not have that guilt whatsoever, at least not that I remember.
About
Which I mean, is about like, oh, I cheated on my dead wife. You know, she has a whole mental breakdown and like can't look at him the next morning, and he's just like, yeah, I got another woman. You know, because that's
yeah.
very.
Well, I mean, he killed
that's
his wife.
very accurate.
He's kind of been through it. He's maybe worked through this already. Yeah. I think the difference is that in the final instance, he was able to give his wife what she wanted, which was like to die peacefully, well, as peacefully as possible. And her guilt is like born of the fact that she wasn't there when her husband died. So I think there's a material difference between the two situations.
Yeah, because she specifically says it's just not being there. So, that's interesting. I didn't think of that.
I don't know what to do with that. It's just that's kind of the difference between their positions. Yeah. Huh, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. I also wonder if it's a thing of like that that these two like it makes sense to me that like that she feels guilty because that happened. And there's a moment later on, and we'll get to it, but there's a moment later on where he they're trying to have sex and he can't. And I think that is where we would gesture back to like that's where he like his part of the guilt comes into it a little bit, or he gets in his head about it in a different kind of way. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't remember that was him thinking about his wife. But
Yeah, I don't remember
regardless.
either.
Well, it's just because they, you know, she couldn't get in the mood, and then that made him a bit awkward and get in his head a bit, and then
Right.
you know, it's just like a very like sort of like raw, intimate scene with, you know, complications and realism and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like sex can be uncomfortable sometimes, and like that's a thing that Hella does neatly. You know, we got that a little bit in Glass Hotel with Vincent and her husband, and like that kind of relationship where, you know, she kind of she quite literally she makes sex into like this transaction. It's like, well, yeah, like I sleep with him whenever he wants, and I get all the stuff I want, and I have this life that like is an escape or whatever. But the sex in that book is never like we don't get actual sex in the way that we do in this book, right? Like it's the cutaway. We get the cutaways in that book where it's like, you know, he took her dress off and then the scene ends and we're somewhere else. This is like it's present in the sex. The sex can be uncomfortable. The sex can be good. The sex can be more than one thing. Yeah, I think it's a natural choice for Haller here, given how purely subjective this book is. For it's so inside Higgs' head that it would be kind of crazy if we did cut away, or if we didn't get this level of granularity. I think it would feel too easy if they just got together and it was good. Like I like that he has the confidence to go for these kinds of scenes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a big part of the book. Like it makes a lot of the air and texture of the whole book.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I think so. I guess we can kind of get into that. I mean, there's a bunch of different things I want to pick up on here. There's one conversation in particular, or one line that that stuck out to me, which is every man has his imaginary refuge, which is what he's thinking about Pops, and then this kind of spurs him into having a conversation with Cima, where he starts to realize that maybe her and Pops are a little bit ignorant of how the world ended because of when they went to the farm. And he's starting to think through, like, they're going to see some stuff out there. Like, it could be a problem. I mean, he asks, like, what about the end? Did you see any of it? And she basically says, like, no. Or she shakes her head. And then he says, this is my favorite writing that Hella does. I'll just give you this passage, and you tell me what he's saying out loud. She shook her head. She leaned down and pushed the butt of a stick into the fire, and when she did, her loose shirt swung away from her collarbones, and I saw her breasts again fuller than they should have been, deep tanned and freckled on the top and milky below. I couldn't get away from them today. I guess that part of me just woke up. Probably been there all the time, Hig, and you were in the fog. The fog of being, I said. What? Sorry, I talk to myself sometimes. I noticed. Really? She nodded. Do I? Not that I've heard. And then there's silence. Then Cima says, I didn't see the collapse, the mass death, but I felt it coming, like a pressure drop. The kind that is worse than bad weather. We had it a few times growing up at the ranch. A pressure shift you could feel in your pulse, your lungs. A darkening of the sky, a weird green-tinged blackness. The cattle restless and upset beyond the usual omens of thunderstorm. That's the way it felt. Why I think I should have known. And I love this maneuver that Hella does, where he goes, Hig does kind of talk to himself sometimes, and this reveals that maybe some of this internal dialogue that we keep hearing, like this actual narration that we're getting, maybe some of that's him talking out loud to himself. Maybe most of it is. That's really fun. I really like it when stories do that, where they go, you thought you understood the vibe, but actually the vibe was this the whole time. I think I mentioned this before. I'm not sure if it was like on microphone, but my all-time favorite is in the Two Towers, when Sam he's like reciting poetry or a song, and the narrator is like, and Sam stood up and put his hands behind his back like he always did when he recited a song, and you go, wait a minute, he was doing that the whole time. I really like that maneuver when authors can make it feel authentic, and because of how much of this subjectivity is. Because of how focused on his subjectivity this book is, it's such a natural and fun little maneuver toward the end here, where you go, oh yeah, that would make sense if he's saying some of this out loud. I just thought it was really fun.
Well, if you're isolated all the time, it's the same thing, isn't it? Like talking out loud to yourself and thinking thoughts, like, and it's only when you're in the presence of other people suddenly that, it's like not normal, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta readjust my way of being suddenly.
I don't really
after COVID.
Well, yes.
That might be left over from Jasper than just a tendency of being by yourself.
True, both and. I like that. That's really tragic. If he's so used to just talking to Jasper all the time. Yeah, that's rough.
There's not. I mean, I don't know what I'm pulling from to say this, but I don't think it's as common for people just to literally talk to themselves out loud all the time as it is for you to talk to an inanimate object or a dog or a pet that can't hear you, even a like goldfish or something. Like pretending something could hear you makes you feel like you're not crazy. But if you're talking out loud to yourself, you kind of feel crazy, and so people tend not to do it.
You've never spent too much time with authors, have you? We are insane.
I was about to say, authors are crazy.
Yeah.
My point stands.
Sometimes you'll just be like muttering a line of dialogue to yourself, trying to get their voice right, you know?
I do that all the time.
Yeah. You know? I talk to myself constantly. Yeah. Go figure. I mean, less so these days, but yeah, definitely a lot during COVID.
If we are done talking about the girl, I'll do the faux pas of talking about her dad.
We haven't even started talking about the girl, brother. Let me tell you, I got so many thoughts. Well, I guess we could talk about the dad, then we can maybe talk about because the ending is quite quick. So maybe we talk about the dad, then we talk about like them getting together, and then we can talk about the ending. Maybe that's what we do. So fine, if you want to talk about the old man, I guess we can. Pops.
Well, it was literally how book 3 opened, so I didn't want to get too far past it.
No, yeah, let's do it then.
And like what I thought was the most interesting, maybe the most like interesting unexpected part in book 3 was like Pops already knew that they couldn't take off with all 3 of them. He didn't even have to do the math. He had already like done it in his mind, and he knew that he would have to stay there, and that's what he wanted. He wanted an excuse to stay there and Cima to go off safely with someone that he could trust, and he finally had it. And then the whole thing was accidentally ruined by Higgs saying, "And I can pick you up on the highway." And Pops is like, "Dang it, why'd you have to say that?" Like all of that inferred, but still.
Oh, yeah, that's how I read it. Yeah, it's like an opportunity for him to like free his daughter of this life that she never asked for, right? This is like the farm that they lived on when she was a kid. Like he wanted her to go off and have her own life. This is that same impulse again, I think.
Yeah. And I had never I mean, the Hig and Pops never like really get any kind of relationship going. And one thing that I thought would have been really nice is for Hig to tell him like, "I think I know that you actually want to stay, and if you want, I will come up with an excuse. Like I will lie to her so you don't have to." And like they see the highway where they're supposed to pick up Pop, and he's like, "I can't land there for these reasons, blah blah blah," or come up with some reason, just so he could make that connection with Pop that is kind of missing.
But I would argue that equally the connection that they do have and that the book expresses is one that where Hig knows what Pop secretly wants and doesn't say anything because he knows that like I don't know, it's like a sort of like it's what he's doing for Pops is by understanding tacitly what Pops is thinking, but like also acknowledging that Pops doesn't want it to be said out loud because like that's in his mind, that's his sanctuary kind of thing. And yeah, I think like the tacit understanding where nothing is said explicitly is the relationship that they have and in a positive way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
He looks unconvinced.
It does make sense. I would love, like, they have a lot of times where it's like, and Pop gave a knowing look, something like that. If they just had that, so it was like Pop never understands that Higgs is smart. I don't know if that makes any sense. So but, I never got the impression that he would know that Higgs knows this thing in order for Pops to know that he knows. I don't know.
But I would argue that is exactly what's going on though. I think it's very subtle, but like I think they do understand each other quite well. Yeah, to that degree. And like Pops like he never says, "Oh, I like you, Hig," or "I tolerate you, Hig," or anything like that. But it's evident, like just from the way they act like the little sentences he does say and the little things he does act toward Hig. I think it's clear that he does like come to appreciate and understand Hig. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of the way that I read it was the reason why there isn't a and Pop gave a knowing look or whatever is that is the equivalent of saying it out loud, and the minute you say it out loud it becomes real. And so it's really important to preserve the kind of the lie that exists between them that can never be acknowledged, because if it's acknowledged it would break Cima's heart, right? This idea of that he would prefer to stay at the farm than go and live the rest of his life with her is like a thing that can never be said, because the second it's said, it's real. As long as it's something they both implicitly understand, it doesn't count, right? It's not real yet. And it's an impulse. It's not a real thing that he desires, but the moment it's voiced, it becomes real. And I think that, I think that's why there isn't an acknowledgement, and it instead kind of sits in the background of their relationship. And I think Hig not saying it out loud is part of what begins to build that respect from Pops. Because Pops is he's like, oh, you understand that I have this need, I have this want, but my actual need is to go with my daughter and live my life with her. And that Pops understands that implicitly Hig is doing right by him by not giving him an option to stay behind. If that makes sense.
Mm. And I think the respect comes from Hig knowing that it's a want and not a need. Pops knows it, and then Hig knows it, and then the fact that Hig gives him that that distance and that leash. It's it's what builds a positive relationship between them.
Mm.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And maybe the acknowledgement that that Pops is the kind of man who probably for his entire life has really never let any other man tell him what he needs or what he wants. And part of why that's the case is that when you find someone you trust, you don't need to tell them. And this is kind of that to me, where it's we get each other, Yeah. Anything else on Pops?
No, that was my big. I don't know that he did anything else. He did cool stuff, but I don't know that he did anything else that was deep or anything.
When they do their when they go full commando mode and they're running in the airport with the guns, I was yeah, Pops is the coolest guy ever. he just has it like that. Yeah, I guess let's talk a little bit about the I guess them getting together and the way that Hela approaches writing sex, and then we can kind of talk about the ending because it is pretty brisk after that. So this is sort of we've had he's seen her in the lake. It's maybe been 6 or 7 weeks. We're not really sure. They're in the final preparations of getting ready to leave, and she comes to his hammock at night. And she puts a blanket down or whatever, and kind of unbuttons her shirt, and then she's just fully naked. The way Hela writes this, I think, is very interesting to me. It's an approach to writing sex I maybe haven't encountered before, or where I have encountered it, it's always been in the context of an actual romance, erotic book, as opposed to what Hela does with it, which I think is different. I'll just give you this little section. I don't want to read too much of this because we will get demonetized. But I'll give you some of this because I do think it's worth understanding if you're not reading along, understanding the style and the prosaic voice that Hela uses when he's writing about sex. It's far more metaphorical than perhaps other approaches might be. So he's on the hammock and she's lying on this blanket. She unbuttoned the shirt. It parted. She pushed the side of it off her breast with her free hand and still gazing at the sky, she tucked her fingers under a button and pulled the rest of it to the side. It fell open, the rise and fall of her breath, the length of her. In the dark, she radiated a soft light of her own, like waves breaking at night. The smooth, pale plane of her stomach, all of her. Jesus Christ, Hig, don't turn away, don't close your eyes. Breathe, man. You are supposed to look, dumbass. It's not impolite. If you don't look, you will insult her. Who the fuck do you think this is for? This is for you. She wasn't, like, just in the neighborhood. All of that in my clamorous head. Telling myself to be respectful, act like a grown-up, soak up every detail. She has vouchsafed you some portion of pure luck, be grateful. The rusty moon painted her without shadow. My toes dug into the wool and I stopped swinging. I held still and watched her, a kind of suspended awe, the way I had watched a royal elk step out of aspen. What you are seeing, Hig, cannot be real, it is just too magnificent. Don't twitch a muscle or it will vanish. She didn't vanish. She turned her head to me. I cleared my throat. You were in the neighborhood, I said lamely. My voice came out high like an adolescent who can't control the timbre. She raised one eyebrow. Maybe. She raised up on her elbows and shrugged the shirt down her arms. Then she rolled over and lay on her stomach, her head on her crossed hands, offering another vista. The world can end, but you are not immune. Oh no. And then she says, if you want, you can just look at me. It's probably been a long time. I'm in no hurry. And I guess the reason why I think it's noteworthy is he then he then metaphorizes it a little bit as to flying a plane. He's not being literal. Hell is being playful here. He's like, I don't know why, but I thought of flying. How there's a checklist you tick before you starting the engine, before taxiing, before takeoff, da da da. And like, he uses it as a way to structure the thoughts that he's having. And it's erotic, but it's playful and it's like funny. And I think it's that humor that makes it not feel super lascivious or like really full on. I don't know. I'm curious like how you guys felt about like his approach here. And if it worked or if he kind of went, I don't know about this.
No, I thought it worked very effectively. Like I don't know. He's got the rhythm and pacing down. Yeah, like I don't know. He takes it very slow. I don't know. I mean, the thing about like reading erotic scenes is that like it really is like, your brain just goes into the id and you're just consuming these like words without really, I find that I read faster when I'm like reading erotic stuff just because you're not thinking, you're just like feeling. And that if the generally is a sign of like how good the writing is and how engaged you are is like how like fast you can read and consume the words and like and how much it can keep your attention. I felt that it was really effective and like steamy.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
That is well said. That is probably a good summation of like how I felt as well. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it avoids cliche. I mean, there is some cliche stuff here, like stuff I've seen 1,000 times before. When her mouth found mine, it disassembled, not exploded like a bomb or anything, but came apart a few pieces at a time. They floated away, went into a kind of orbit, a splintering galaxy. Like some of that I went, I was like, Peter, I've read this before, but it still works really well because it's so pacey, to your point, Pat. It's really pacey. It has the added complexity that JM was talking about before of like that she does have this like physical issue. And so like when it starts to get steamy, they have to slow down and that makes it more like steamy, if you know what I mean. It's paced very well is the other thing to your point, Pat. Like it moves through what it's trying to move through with a kind of there's a conscious structuring speed to it. It's like it's rhythmic. It's like you get a paragraph of description, then a paragraph of interiority, then a paragraph of description, and then another paragraph of description, and then it's like bang, 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 and then it's like, and then it's over. Like it's very at a purely like, when sometimes we talk about books as being a collection of like of only being a collection of like characters and ideas, we often forget that it's the only real thing in a book is the words on a page. And just the structure of how these words sit on the page when you're reading it, to your point, Pat, it's very quick. These paragraphs shorten as it goes on, and they become 2 or 3 sentences by the end. They start a bit longer, and they sort of start to clip down, and then it's over. And it's a very keen way to use the structure and principle of the paragraph to keep moving things forward to the point where the final paragraph is literally 2 sentences before we get the, you know, the cutaway to afterwards. Yeah, Jam, what about you?
I have almost nothing to compare this to, so I don't really have any thoughts. Star Wars novels don't tend to have a lot of sex in them, which might surprise you, might not. Probably the most notable thing was his, I don't know if shyness is the right word, but that kept hitting me over and over that, like, even, I don't know, he never, like, committed? I don't know if that's like the right word, but like he never believed. He never like believed that it was actually happening. Whereas like most male protagonists in most stories would be like ripping off their armor and, you know, that kind of thing, and like no hesitation whatsoever. This is incredibly the opposite of most like sex scenes that you would see in TV shows or movies or whatever.
That is a really good point. Yeah, 100%. It's completely different, right? Like this is like a real person. There's a human being having sex and being in a sexual encounter. It's not a character. Like it's not written like a and then he was confident and he like ripped her blouse off. Da 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 da. It's like no. It's like he's a person with interiority. He's thinking about this stuff. He doesn't want to mess it up, and he also doesn't want to read into something that isn't there. Like, yeah, you're right. It is completely different than what you would. The best point of comparison I have from a stylistic perspective for this novel is something like Sea Scraper, by Chris Wood, and that has not a sex scene, but it has a character who is attracted to a girl, and I think that probably Wood and Heller have a very similar approach to writing men who are attracted to women, which is taking them down the route of the modern man, which is that like you have a responsibility in these situations to be attentive and careful. That can make things sometimes feel awkward, sometimes feel really exciting. It's not a typical sex scene, and demonstrates that men can be more than one thing, right? They can be attracted to someone. Someone could be attracted to them. They can be, you know, sexual. They can be careful when they do it. That can still be sexy. Like I think it does a lot of work to not be the typical type of sex scene you're talking about, JM. That's actually really well observed.
And one really notable thing was the fact that she's to some extent trying to hide it from her dad, because like she sleeps on her own like pallet outside of the stone house and her dad sleeps inside the stone house, and every morning before dawn she gets up and leaves Hig and goes back to her pallet and pretends that she was sleeping there all night, even though Pops knows what's going on. She's still going through these actions to try to hide it.
Yeah, that's human. It's, you know, it may be irrational, maybe not, but you know, it's just a decision that someone would make. Seems realistic to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't. It just kind of made me giggle. It's like, you know, post-apocalypse, there's a handful of humans left, and she's like, second husband, I still don't want Pops to know about it. No.
Yeah, just like another bit of like, you know, texture about, you know, people acting irrationally, and yeah, it's what this book is about.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is that this is a position she finds herself in. This is where she grew up. This is her childhood farm. And so suddenly she feels like a teenager again, like sneaking around because she doesn't want her dad to know. Like that's also a way you could read it, where it's like, you know, it's like that's her dad. Like the second they go to the to Higgs airport, that's gone. Like it's also the context of where they are that I think is how I kind of read it too.
And we didn't mention it, but I like the build up to them actually having sex, where like, you know, for a couple of nights she just like sleeps with him, like, and you know, like I can't remember, maybe the first night like she just sleeps with him with their clothes on, and the second night they don't have clothes on, and you know, it's like a nice build up. And yeah, to your point, David, like I think it's as if they're enjoying like, you know, like an adolescent romance or something like that. Like and I think you know it it adds a lot for both of them and for us as the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also the other aspect to it is that early on she says to him like, I don't know if I can do this. I thought I could. The other aspect is that maybe the reason she's hiding it from her dad is that she's not yet sure if she can do this. I mean, every single time is another testing ground for whether she can be intimate with someone again. And if the second that she tells her dad, there's like pressure, and then it's like, then it becomes real, and then she's like committed to it. Like I think there's also that aspect of, this is an experiment for both of them in seeing if they are capable of being intimate with someone else. And as long as Pops doesn't find out, that experiment can be forgotten about if it goes wrong, right?
I liked the detail about like, well, one of the nights where they didn't have sex, and fucking up, my cat's going absolutely crazy. Sorry. One of the nights where they didn't have sex, he's just he's got like massive erection, and he's just like so backed up, and then he's just lying there like, I was like, it's very relatable. It's
really
man.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one, it's in between the first time they have sex and the second time. And she's like feeling him up, and then she falls asleep, and he's like, wait, is she asleep? It's really funny. Yeah, it's very realistic, right? Yeah, it's very good. The one thing that I thought was really funny was, and I don't know, this is Pat, you're slightly younger than us. You're not that much younger than us, but I was like, have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, I've seen Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay, I don't listen. Listen. Okay, it's not an unreasonable question for me to ask. All right. Although I do suppose you were a teenager at some point, so of course you've seen Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like, as with everyone, like I was, being a film student as well. Like it was an annoying young man who
that didn't occur to me.
Loved Pulp Fiction and compared every movie to Pulp Fiction, and yeah.
I forgot about the film studies part. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is they're lying there, and he's having trouble maintaining an erection, and she gives the line from Pulp Fiction, which is, "Will you give me oral pleasure?" And she said it in a French accent.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really funny. And this is the real moment where they actually they go from this experiment to fully connecting, where he's like giving her oral pleasure, and then they've figured out and they have sex, and it's like they finally get it right, and they finally figured out how to do this thing. And to your point, Pat, it feels so delightfully realistic. Like it's this sort of build up of this intimacy. It ebbs and flows, and then at some point it just kind of clicks. And this is the moment where it clicks, and it's just really funny. And I've seen a criticism of authors. We talked a little bit about this with Stephen King and like some of the criticism he received in the 80s for like constantly naming brands and music and like putting pop culture into his books, and it made them feel, there was this criticism at the time of like, oh, it feels like unliterary, like it makes it feel trashy and kind of like throwaway because it'll age really poorly. I think that Hella makes an interesting choice here. By referencing Pulp Fiction, he kind of gets the best of both worlds, where he gets this really funny little moment that brings them together, but also he picks a completely timeless film. Like he doesn't say like, it's not like a reference from fucking Love Actually or something. You know what I mean? Like it's tonally it works for me in a way that I think if he'd referenced something else, I maybe would have been standing here complaining about, like, he really ruined the timelessness of the book. Like, I don't know, it works for me because he picks something that is so ubiquitous. It'd be like referencing Fight Club. You'd be like, well, yeah, everyone's seen that.
I'm glad that Hig had the thought of that. It's from Pulp Fiction, because otherwise I wouldn't have remembered that. I still
Really?
don't remember that part in Pulp Fiction, but
It's after Bruce Willis's character kills the other guy in the boxing ring, and for not taking the fall, he goes back to the hotel room, and his girlfriend is like, "Will you give me honor pleasure?"
yeah. Well, yeah. I assumed it was somewhere in that Bruce Willis story. Yeah.
He is so hot in that film. It's the hottest he has ever looked in his entire life. Like, just goddamn, Bruce. Goddamn, Bruce.
Yeah.
You know?
Back when he had it. Did he have hair in that film? I can't remember.
He's
I don't
never
think
had
so.
hair.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever has he?
Yeah, he had hair in the first Die Hard, didn't he?
Oh, but like he was already bald. Calling that hair is generous.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Bruce Willis hair.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Fifth
see something I'm never
Element.
gonna unsee. Oh my god. I don't like him with hair, I gotta be honest, boys. And I'll put an image in our group chat just so you can see what I'm looking at. I mean, he looks good with hair. It's just a lot to digest and process. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, right?
It's just a lot.
It's just a lot. Like, he looks good, and he looks good with it without hair. Like, there's, not many people can say that, but
This is important. This is important stuff.
yeah, this is the kind of research that other shows don't do. They would have just been like, oh, I wonder what. No, we do the hard things here, okay? We take a look at Bruce Willis with hair, and we go, wow.
Hot take: Bruce Willis's best period of his career was when he was in Wes Anderson's stuff.
Ooh, okay, I like that. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about Tom Cruise and Michael Mann. Like, that was his best period. That was when he was doing like weird experimental films, like Collateral, which I never shut up about. I watched The Firm this year, which is one of like Tom Cruise's like OG outings in like a feature flick, and he's like a graduate lawyer that every law firm is like desperate to hire, and this like super he gets hired in like this firm that he thought he'd never get a job at, and it's like kind of culty, where it's like they tell you who you can be friends with, and they only socialize with other members of the firm. It's such a good like idea for a thriller. Like, they move to this like company town. It's so good. God, watch The Firm.
I'm excited for his new film with Alejandro Inarritu. That looks sick.
I just listen. Tom Cruise has burned me so many times the last 10 years that I have trouble trusting him, like, and his taste in projects. But I'll give it a go. Okay, so I guess the next thing, we talked a little bit about the sex and stuff like that. So then they leave, right? There's kind of two things that happen at the same time. They leave. They pick up Pops. That's the seamless bit. And I've just written in my notes next to where they pick up Pops in all caps. Too easy. Because I've written a book before and I know this maneuver. And it works really well. Where they go to land and the most insane fucking thing happens that I just was like, I would never have thought of this. So they pick up Pops and then they fly out over the city. And there's a lot of prose about like the fact that like the entire city is basically like, razed to the ground. Everything is scorched. A similar vibe to The Road, but I couldn't put together like what happened.
Just natural fires.
Just natural
right?
fires? Yeah, similar to like
Yeah.
The Road maybe, yeah.
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 I mean, that's an easier thing to do in an apocalypse story, hey? Like, just because it's true. Because, like, and it's something that, like, people in the modern age don't realize like how much like fire control there actually is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why The World, the Flesh, and the Devil is so startling. Like, when you watch that film, is it's just like, New York is just empty. Like, it's almost like everyone, like, got raptured and they just vanished. Like, there's no bodies or anything. We talked about that at the time as being really effective. And this is the inverse of that, where it's like, yeah, like, everything gets burned to the... Or the same in On the Beach, right? Like, when the guy goes... he goes in to, like, figure out where the signal's coming from. And just, it's like everything is completely as it was, but there's no one anywhere. You know, this kind of eerie sense of like, of disreality that comes with everything being exactly the way it was, but humans aren't here. This is like the opposite of that, and it's like playing with the idea of the road, which is like, yeah, the world will like, you know, nature will happen, and like human infrastructure will decay. Yeah, I think it seems to me that most post-apocalypse stories have to pick one or the other. And yeah, Hella goes for the one that we've seen before, which, yeah, I think it's just interesting. It's a feature of the genre that you kind of have to pick a lane in that regard.
Remember, this one was different in that they like introduced global warming, but we don't know where it came from or why it was so quick.
Yeah, I did think that was interesting. I also wonder if, you know, he's writing this in 2012. Like, it may just be that it's like, yeah, that, you know, everyone was saying, hey, the world, if we don't do something, it's going to be irreversible. And we did nothing, and things are bad. I wonder if he's just accelerating a bit and making that. It also gives him a convenient feature for why Cima and Pops need to leave the farm. Like, if I was this author, this to me is just a mechanistic choice to have that be the pressure point that they need. And then to have this be reflective of that, right? Like, this is another climate disaster, which reinforces the first climate challenge, which is the drought.
It's interesting how... I mean, do they say the words global warming? Because I didn't... My mind didn't go there. I just thought it's a natural ecological cycle.
Well, it talks specifically about the streams warming up so that the species of fish are dying, and then other species of animals that have died out and stuff. But it was specifically the warming water, which made me think global warming.
I guess to your point, Pat, I mean, they never say those words. It's just...
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's a safe bet given when it was written. I agree. But also, like, it's... I mean, it's good. It's smart. Like, I think it's plausible that, like, you know, it's another timeless thing. I think it's plausible that it is just an ecological cycle. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we grew up in a drought in Brisbane when I was a kid, and that was just like, it just kind of happened. Like, there was no particular reason. It was like, well, we're just in a drought for 4 years, and then it stopped and hasn't repeated since. Like, these things can't just happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then they fly over the damn thing. They go to land at this airport to refuel. At the last second, Higgs spots this, like, wire trap. And I've written in my notes, JM, can you explain the logistics of what happens here? What does he mean wire? What is happening? What?
I love that you're like, oh, it's the dangerous booby trap. I bet the American knows what's going on here.
No, you just have much better spatial reasoning than I do. So this is a little David Law drop. I have really bad, like, spatial reasoning capabilities. When I was applying for, like, the selective academic entry finishing school, I got, like, basically perfect scores on, like, literacy, maths, problem solving. But on the, like, spatial reasoning test, I basically, like, tanked the whole thing. And in the interview, the dean of students was like, yeah, like, really impressed with your test scores. What happened with this exam? And I was like, oh, listen, man, I don't know what to tell you. I just can't, my brain doesn't, I can't do it. You know how some people, they can, if they drive like a particular route, if they do it once, it's just like, they could do it again or describe it. Not me. No sense of direction. It's, if Pat hadn't lived where he lives previously, I would not be able to drive there by memory. Like, it's literally the fact that it's like 4 years combined. I know how to get there. That's why I got lost walking back from the gym, boys. Like, I can't put that stuff together.
imagining little toddler David solving an equation on a piece of paper and then turning and trying to force the square block into the circle hole and be like,
Yeah, 100%. It's just not something I'm good at.
That's hilarious. Okay, so in Return of the Jedi, when the Ewoks are fighting and the stormtroopers are riding on their hovercraft and they're zooming through the forest and the Ewoks pull up on the vine and it catches the stormtroopers and they fall over backwards. That's what they're doing to the plane, and they're using a forklift that is attached to the wires, so it's raising up the forks which bring the wires taut so that when the plane comes down to land, the wheels of the plane catch on that wire, so they have the height of the wire planned out at exactly the right spot on the runway so that the wheels of the plane will trip over that, and then it causes the plane to go end over end. So what Higgs was seeing, like his red flags were going off the whole time, and it was all of the planes that were on the ground. They should have been just like burned husks, but they were crashed planes. And he never understood until right before he accidentally saw the wire, and then he was like, "Oh, something is causing them to crash. I have to pull up."
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't get that. I got the fact that they were doing something to the planes. Okay, that makes sense. So they're sort of like, yeah, like the wire comes up, the landing gear gets like sheared off, and then the plane just goes and crashes. Gotcha. And thank you for putting it in the context of something I understand, being Star Wars. I appreciate that.
Didn't they do this in the Book of Eli?
Didn't they do this in the Book of Eli?
I swear there was like some sort of wire trap in that movie. Maybe not. Maybe I'm imagining this. Never mind.
I don't think so. I mean, there's that weird trapdoor under the front of the house, which we all thought was dreadful.
A car did flip, but it was a grenade.
Grenade. That was a sick shot too. That was a very cool shot. Just Mila Kunis tossing a grenade, looking very cool. And the more I think about that film, the more I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was really dumb fun. Yeah,
it's sick. I love it.
Yeah, it really feels like the beginning of like Chad Stahelski sitting there being like, if only there were a film that was dedicated to this kind of stuff, and then just like 10 years later, they're like, yeah, here's John Wick #1. It's good fun. So then he pulls up, and then they park the plane somewhere else. Land the plane. I'm not a plane guy. They set the plane down. All right. Set the plane down, and then Hig and Pops go fucking Rambo mode. Pops like Hig provides some covering fire, and Pops just like pulls up Hig's rifle and like pots someone like through like a 4-inch hole in the wall, through the scope of their gun, which is the coolest shit I've ever heard. Like, this guy is he just has it like that, And I've written in my notes, JM, is this possible? Can you shoot someone through? I guess it's just glass, right?
Well, they have a Mythbusters episode on this, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah.
On this?
Yeah, on shooting someone through the scope of a rifle, yeah.
Oh. No, it's not it's not literally that. So I don't think it's as impressive as David is taking it, although it's still, yes, is massively
well, let me
impressive.
see you do it. Let me see you do it then. Oh, it's so easy.
Okay, give me a sec. We'll get there.
I bet Eric could do it.
I have a bad okay, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna embarrass him. So we would at least shoot BB guns from our back porch, and we went to gun ranges a few times. But we've just got woods behind us, so we would shoot bow and arrow BB guns pretty frequently back there. And one day we're out there shooting, he and Wes and I just see Wes looking at him really curiously, and then he's like, "Eric, are you right-handed or left-handed? You're right-handed? Why are you aiming with the wrong eye?" And that's when we discovered that Eric was a bad shot because he was aiming with the wrong eyeball.
Wait, what do you mean? There's a right eyeball?
Yeah, it's the one that is closest to the barrel of the gun. So if you're right-handed, it's your right eye that's looking down the scope. If it's your left eye, then you can't even see down the sight lines.
Oh yeah,
If you're left-handed, it's your left eye that's looking directly down the scope line.
that's crazy. I feel like an insane person now. Blink too much. You can literally see it though. Like if you're listening to this, put your hand up in the gun, if whichever hand, and then close your eyes. This is the parallax. You can literally. That's crazy. That's crazy.
But-
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this seems pretty self-evident. Like, if you can't look down the scope, I don't understand how you can mess that up. But
It's
okay.
classic Eric, vintage Eric.
Okay, so in the story here, they've got they're like in a tower is where the bad guys are shooting down from, and it's like bulletproof glass that's in the tower because it's this airport control tower, so they've got all these safety precautions, so they can't actually shoot through the glass to get these people because it's bulletproof. But also that means that the bad guys can't shoot out. So in order to shoot out, they have had to carve out their own little holes in order to stick the barrel of their gun through so they can shoot out. They have one of these holes carved out that's like at chest high, so they could get that angle, and then they've got another one that's down at the floor, so that then they could have a lower angle and try to hit someone who's closer to the base of their tower. So what Pops did is he started like going up the stairs, and he got up close enough that he could see through the lower hole, and then he shot through the lower hole while the other person was aiming through the upper hole.
Oh.
So he shot up and like hit them like upwards through the stomach kind of thing, and he didn't hit the scope at all because they were aiming through the upper hole and never even saw that he was below them. And it wasn't like a crazy distance. It still was like impressive because it was such a small hole, but he was also like, he went more up to it. He wasn't off at like a distance. As I took it, he was like,
right. So he's got
he was
the
at the
parallax.
base of the
I see.
tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just fully misread it, is the thing that happened. The line is, he had shot whoever it was right up their skirts. I read that as, he shot whoever it was right in the scope. I just read it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you don't assume that they'll be wearing skirts either, so it's understandable.
You that happens a lot with you, Dave. I think that's how you get through so many books. Hey, it's like you don't you just read at like 80% accuracy.
I mean, to be fair, this reading, I've been so sleep deprived the last like 2 weeks. I read half of this reading on the plane. I read the other half in the hotel room after like being awake for 20 hours. And then I read like the last bit a couple nights ago. So like, yes, I do read quickly, but also this is, if there were ever a time for inaccuracies, it's this reading. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want to talk.
I remember Eric talking about that once too, though. Like that's kind of a speed reading tactic, is that you don't actually sound out the words in your head. You just sort of identify them and move on.
Depends on the book.
I
as
remember
well.
once that he said that same thing when I was like, how in the world are you getting through this book so fast? I think it was like we all came back from the midnight release with the new Harry Potter book or whatever, and he was already like 15 chapters ahead of me. And I was like, how did you get through that so fast? Did you not get where the new character did this? And he's like, I don't even know the new character's name. I just identified the word and I moved past it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how you read so fast. You're not sounding out the words. You're just like understanding what they're referencing and then going.
There are these videos on YouTube that it's like how fast can you read, and only one word flashes on a screen per time, and it's like, you know, one word, then one word, then one word, then it slowly gets like faster and faster, and like it's like really interesting because it proves that you're not, even if you can't read, you know, the letters and the word, you're still like processing it, and you can actually still read like the word even if you can barely see it. Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it is also an author thing. I think that you develop as well because you see words so often that like it becomes almost like precognitive when you're looking at a sentence or a paragraph. Like you're so used to processing so quickly. Because when you're writing, you're processing at the speed of your typing, right? So I think it kind of comes hand in hand with that skill. But yes, Eric and I are very similar in that regard, where we can both read really quickly and we can both write really quickly, and they kind of they inform each other. But I try, like, some books, like when I read the Kingkiller Chronicles, like I try and read that slowly because the prose is so incredible, and like Glass Hotel and anything by Emily St. John Mandel, like I really take my time with it. Sometimes like I'll just reread a paragraph over and over again just because it's so fucking impressive and I like want to like spend time in it. But yes. I guess like I don't really have much to say about these guys. They kill them. There's a really grim detail where and I thought this was very Station 11. There's a grim detail where they find this like bedroom where the people are staying, and they've got like hundreds and hundreds of like caps, like baseball caps on the wall, presumably from people they've killed, and that sort of thing. And then yeah, they gas up and they head back to the farm, or back to the airport.
Caps and cats.
I was left.
Oh,
Yeah, and all the cats. That was a really weird detail.
yeah, lots of cats. Patrick says surrounded by cats.
That's, hey man, you know, they can't be all bad if they're cat lovers in my book.
It's true.
There's a difference in being a cat lover and having like 100 of them in one bedroom apartment.
It's weird, man. It's weird. It's giving weird.
'Cause, like, they couldn't get out. Like, the cats were trying to escape from the gunfire and they couldn't. So these people had to find and trap every cat and bring it there themselves.
Yeah, don't think too deeply into it.
Yeah, it is empirical proof in this book's moral universe that to be a dog person is to be a good person, and to be a cat person is to be evil.
Yeah, it's true.
So is that as
It's not
well?
called the cat stars.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right, Patrick. Exactly right. I'm joking, but it does produce that positionality.
One thing that I had inferred, but they didn't really go into at all, is that it was an older couple that was doing this, and I'm inferring that they were cannibals. But there's nothing really that addresses that,
What makes you think they're cannibals?
because the inference is that their method of survival is not foraging around the other towns. They don't grow their own food. They didn't, they weren't seeing like rows of vegetables growing when they were flying the plane over or anything like that. So what are these people eating? So they're crashing the plane so they could take the food off the plane. But what food is on a plane? Anyone that was surviving on the plane would have probably eaten the food on the plane. So what's left? What's the purpose of doing this? And the only thing I was left with is you're eating the people, which is very post-apocalypse.
Scouring the reading, because I think that's wrong. They
Yeah,
do walk
I'm
past
looking at
like
it as
grow
well.
beds and stuff. I like the idea.
That
just-
that would make me feel better, because like it would it would make me feel better for the old people to be like just trying to protect themselves,
Yeah.
rather than they're actively trapping and eating people. You know,
Yeah, I can't find it, but I'm
but
pretty
they're
sure
also luring them in. I guess that's the other part, is they're actively like on the comms and being like, yeah, this is Delta 49er and we're here, we have an open. So like, why are they luring people in if they're not actively trying to get something?
Right. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just start doing something, and then it's 10 years into the apocalypse and you're still doing it, you know? It's the thing we talked about last time of like sometimes like behavior is just inertia. And like you did it a couple times and then it's like, wow, now this is just what we do. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really shining a light on myself and in this episode, and finding out that I love every detail to be intricately connected and have a purpose to the story. I'm like, if they're doing this, if they have a red curtain, what does that mean? It's gotta mean something.
I mean,
Are you subconsciously thinking about Book of Eli again with that old couple of cannibals?
Uh, all old people are all old
Yeah.
people not to be trusted.
It must
I
be.
might have that in my brain.
I mean,
now.
I'd buy that.
But also, it's also Dumbledore, so I was inherently trusting him, even though knowing they were cannibals. So I had that going
That-
too.
You can't tell me that guy hasn't tried human flesh at least once. You know what I'm saying? Him and
Dumbledore?
yeah, man. You don't
Okay.
think when he's young and him and Griswold are fooling around that we'll just try it?
just a cheeky bit of cannibalism.
He's definitely
Oh,
in
I
whale.
was-
I'm telling you that for sure. He's definitely had whale. I'll say that for certain.
Comparing whales and humans?
I mean, they're both illegal, and they're both mammals.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. They've got a lot in common.
Oh,
Both have teeth. Tell me I'm wrong. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
David thinks Japanese people are cannibals.
Yeah, I said it, and I meant it.
He's just trying to come up with a take that's crazier than all the stuff I've said tonight.
Yeah. I still can't believe.
Just an
Never
FYI,
gonna-
I've never eaten whale. I'll
Okay.
say that.
Yeah, that's that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that someone who's eaten whale would say.
I have eaten people though.
Oh
That
yeah,
was- that
that's
was
chill.
alright.
That's alright.
Yeah.
It's more gamey than you'd imagine. You know.
Yeah. I was literally about to say that as well.
Have you had kangaroo, Pat?
Yeah, I love me some kangaroo. When I was briefly in my bulking up period, I ate a lot of kangaroo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I prefer of the coat of arms. I think I prefer kangaroo over emu. If I'm being honest.
Don't know that I've had emu. Fat
It-
crocodile.
Crocodile's good. Crocodile's really good on a pizza. There's a hotel in the Rocks in Sydney that do like it's like a really old like ancient Australian pub. You know, like the level of old where like the floors are kind of uneven beneath the carpets, like that kind of old. And they do like they do like pizzas that are themed around the different Australian animals. So you can get a crocodile pizza there. It's incredible. If you're ever in Sydney, that's my suggestion.
Does bison make its way to y'all?
I don't think so.
Huh.
Is it good?
Well, to be fair, I have no proof that the bison burger that I ate was in fact bison. You know, I wasn't doing a chemical test on it at the table. Could have been regular cow, but it was delicious. So I've always said that it's absolutely fantastic. But also, I was just more thinking about like the different animals that are in different spots of the world, and I'm like, I want to try emu. I want some kangaroo. They're mean-looking
Yeah.
critters, and I want to eat one.
Yeah, I'm always down to eat like whatever animal. I was about to say exotic animals, but that just makes me sound like the worst kind of like, like non-conscientious like meat eater.
I still think that before I
which
die,
is-
I want to
which is
eat.
what I
You know that like the bird that's so illegal, that, like that it's like an affront to God. You have to put the thing over your head.
Yeah.
I want to do that, but I want God as my fucking witness. I ain't putting nothing over my head, boys.
Just gonna be yeah, delicious.
Yeah. Stand outside while I eat it. Stare up into the sky. What do you think about that, pal? Anyway. Yeah, they go back. Bangley's all fucked up. Cima nurses him to health. As per the summary, we get the stuff with the Mennonites. There's kind of only really two things I want to talk about before we wrap up. The first is that Cima and Hig kind of figure their relationship out. She most days goes and tends to the Mennonites. He flies her out there. He works on the farm at the airport, and Pops and Mangley get along really, really well, which is a surprise to nobody. They may as well be the same guy. And there's this really great detail where it's as the book is like unwinding and kind of slowing down. We slept in the open on the ground where I had always slept with Jasper. But we made a willow screen and we opened 2 of the flannel sleeping bags and spread them on a double mattress we hauled out of my house, the one with the porch. And I slept as I never had, not since. We slept often holding each other in a tangle of arms and legs, which I had never been able to do, not with anyone. I woke in the middle of the night as I used to do, and propped my head on my arms and watched the stars and counted constellations and made up others, but now I did it with the pressure of her elbow in my cheek, move it gently over, her hair in my mouth, her thigh over mine, and with a sense of having been spared and having been blessed. Still some nights I grieved. I grieved as much at what I knew must be the fleeting nature of my present happiness as any loss, any past. We lived on some edge, if we ever lived on a rolling plain. Who knew what attack, what illness? That doubleness again, like flying. The stillness and speed, serenity and danger. The way we could gobble up space and the beast and seem to barely move. That sense of being in a painting. I should just quit writing. I mean, Hella just has it. To end that with the way we could gobble up space and the beast and seem to barely move. That sense of being in a painting is a crazy, incredible like rhythm to end that piece of description. I was just so impressed by pretty much all of the prose after Bangley sort of, revived. But that in particular, I just thought was incredible. Like trying to capture this feeling of like, you're in a place where you're finally happy. And on the one hand, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But on the other hand, you're like trying to enjoy it. I just thought it was such a great way to capture that feeling.
I'm really going to annoy you by saying that I was very annoyed that the title didn't tie in any way that I understood. Like I kept thinking that's how the book cat. I kept thinking that's how the book had to end, was like the last sentence would be something like, and I saw Jasper up there in the stars and he is the one that led me to this new happiness or something like that. And it didn't tie everything together, and it annoyed me.
That would be so hacky. Could you imagine?
What if the last line was like, and I named this constellation the Dog Stars?
Yeah. And after all that, I saw the Dog Stars. I get that instinct.
Well, so what does that mean? Like, what does the Dog Stars mean in relation to the book?
Well, what do you think it means?
Nothing. Like, I walk away thinking it literally has no meaning, and he just was like, oh, I like stars, and he's under the stars a lot, and he liked his dog. I'm gonna name it the Dog Stars.
Yeah, I think that's basically it.
I mean, the ending of the book is pretty close to the thing I'm describing that you wanted. Like, we slept outside into October. Maybe we will all winter. The way Jasper and I used to do, piling on the quilts. Sleep some frosty nights with wool hats on, with just our noses sticking out. Head to head or butt to butt. We name the winter constellations, and when we run out of the ones we know, Orion, Taurus, Pleiades, the Chariot, we make them up. Mine are almost always animals. Hers almost always food. The sourdough pancake with syrup, the soft-shell crab or gratin. I name one for a scrappy fish-loving dog. So that's Jasper. I still dream Jasper is alive. Before that, my heart will not go. And then we get the poem from Li Shanyin. My favorite poem, the one from Li Shanyin. When will I be home? When will I be home? I don't know. In the mountains, in the rainy night, the autumn lake is flooded. Someday we will be back together again. We will sit in the candlelight by the west window, and I will tell you how I remembered you tonight on the stormy mountain. So I don't know. He all but says the Dog Stars when he says I named one for a scrappy fish-loving dog. I don't know. It's pretty close.
I did not remember that sentence, so I will retract 3/4 of my faux pas there.
That's famously media criticism. You can kind of fractionalize it. You can kind of, 2/3 of my argument. I've
always been a title snob. Like, I guess because they're not usually literal at all. Titles very frequently don't have any relation to what's in the story or the movie or whatever, and it's annoyed me my entire life.
I mean,
how do you feel about the Phantom Menace then?
Yeah,
that's a title that's always annoyed me.
Yeah, like it's got multiple maybe it was supposed to have multiple meanings. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just have to name a damn book, and it's like an impossible task. There's some authors that I've worked with who are like they effortlessly name their books. I am not one of them. It is like I mean, you guys, I make you guys provide me input when I name books. That's how bad I am at it. I have to be like, here's my list of 25. Which ones do you guys like? And then invariably, I do that with like everyone in my life. Like I shop it around to be like, what do you think? You know,
I fancy myself a pretty good title maker. Actually, I think I come up with very good titles.
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, this is the man that came up with the Method to the Madness. You kidding me?
I know. So good.
So good.
Even to this day.
To this day.
Yeah. To this day, I'm amazed
to this day.
At my brilliance. My brilliance is sometimes almost frightening.
It's sometimes frightens even myself. Yeah.
Oh, there was one interesting thing that the story kind of sets itself up for a sequel.
Say more.
So there were a couple times earlier on where they mentioned, I think it was Arabs was the nationality that were the people who were reported coming in. And I think it was one of the guys that was in the truck stealing the Pepsi that Higgs should have questioned about what he knew about the quote unquote the Arabs. And the people that assaulted that attacked the compound and nearly killed Bruce, they were, as I'm assuming, they were part of this Arab group because like they were all wearing something that was not traditionally American, and like 7 of the fighters were women, which is also very unusual. I don't know if that's an Arab thing at all, but it was unusual. And then there was several descriptions of them starting to see huge like 747 airplanes coming from overseas, and hearing trying to contact those planes, and then hearing that those pilots were talking in a foreign language that they thought was Arabic. So there's all of these indications that other countries have survived and have been thriving compared to America, and those people are now coming to America and are colonizing America. So all of those things, plus like the big attack on their compound, followed by the multiple airplanes of new people coming, made me think that like, oh, this is heading for a possible part 2 where it's this new wave of colonization, and how do we live through this at the end of the world.
My take on the whole Arab thing was it was a deliberate red herring, basically. Because it's in the legacy of other apocalypse stories, like The Road. If you set up this group of people, you think, oh, that's what's going to go wrong, majorly wrong in the last act of the book, and I mean they do appear. Bangley has a shootout with them, almost dies, but you don't see it, and I think that's sort of like to the to what the book is trying to do, and which is like expressed by this ending of being in this rather like tranquil place of mind where you've connected with this other person, and you're falling in love, and you're looking at the stars, and like nothing's perfect, but you're just like living day to day, and it's like the banality of the apocalypse is suddenly like all you ever wanted in this setting. Like the banality is beautiful kind of thing. And yeah, I think it all connects and is all thematically coherent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned this at the start, but I guess I'll rehash it here because we're sort of at the ending now. Yeah, I was saying before, like KSR calls this like the Slingshot Ending, which is this idea that like you produce a potential narrative that the characters are about to step into, and then you don't do anything with it. They sort of step out of frame, is the way that KSR describes it. And it's kind of, it's like a different kind of syllogism to how a novel normally ends. And the particular piece that KSR picks up on is, this is from SF Encyclopedia. He says, it is almost certainly necessary that the ending envisaged by the reader be in some sense voluntary for the character living in it, or bestowed as in the exhilarating conclusion to Vladimir Nabokov's invitation to a beheading, which almost perfectly illuminates J.R.R. Tolkien's escape from prison, brushing aside his pending execution. And this is the section he pulls out. This is from a story that Tolkien is writing. This is how it ends. Amid the dust and the falling things and the flapping scenery, Sineteus made his way in that direction where, to judge by the voices, stood beings akin to him. The device, though never common, is more often found in the literature of fantasy and science fiction, where happy endings tend to be built in more than anywhere else. Certainly in the early, relatively uncommon years of genre, where narrative risks could be more easily taken. The reason for its frequencies are plain. Such an ending must be told in a fashion which surprises the reader, but also compels ultimate assent. Not an easy task. And so I guess the reason why it feels that way, JM, is like, that's the point. Is you're supposed to then in your head go, oh, I wonder what happens to them. But then to Pat's point, it's also this thing of like the voluntary piece is that they finally have peace. They've stepped into this new life. They've crossed this threshold. They're finally at peace. And here's this other story that they're about to step into. But rather than something we observe, it's out of frame, right? Our camera moves onto something else, and we're left to kind of sit and think about like what does their life look like together? What is this thing that's happening? In the same way that in On the Beach, we got the kind of to the red herring point, we got the red herring of the radio signal that turned out to be nothing. This is a pretty common, I think, approach to. I mean, it's technically like enthymeme, I guess. Like it's technically an enthymeme, but I would call this close. It's like a slingshot ending, I guess. And yeah, like it can produce discomfort, or it can be frustrating and feel truncated. But the point of like the slingshot ending is that it should persuade you as a reader that a choice of conclusions was available and the characters chose an ending for themselves, and that there might be some future stories, if that makes sense. That's kind of the thinking behind why you end a book like this, anyway.
One of the issues that I have with ending it on such a happy note is that it's kind of like they're willfully ignoring the problem that they were running from in the first place. I don't have any strong memory of like what their water source is here, but like if they were just droughted out of their last place, why is this place safe from the same drought? Like when he was hunting in the mountains, he sees that creek drying up, and that's only a couple days walk from where they're living at the airport. So like it's ending on a happy note, but you've got the drought that is still around them, and then also this possible like influx of foreign fighters coming after them. So then I'm like, I absolutely see what you're talking about with like that's not their problem, quote unquote, but both of those things are massively their problem.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? It's supposed to make you go, I wonder what happens next. Like the book's job isn't to solve the universe for you. It's to go, here's where they find themselves. Now think what you will about what occurs. Like to your point, like maybe they have to deal with the drought. Maybe they deal with it's kind of the point of the slingshot ending. Is it's supposed to go, this is an unfinished argument. You decide for yourself what the ending of that argument looks like, if that makes sense. Or you don't, and you go, I did, like, because to me, the way I read books, I go, I don't know what happens, and that's fine. It's not the story we're telling.
It reminds me of Robert McKee in Story, talking about your story should be a fraction of your character's life, but in that fraction of a fraction is the like most momentous change that they can go through, and within that story you should imply everything that has happened and everything that will happen.
Part of what I'm feeling might also be the fact that they kind of they crossed the threshold. Not they. I say they. Higgs crossed the threshold, entered the new world, and then he returned to the old world. So he kind of like broke the story of the hero's journey by returning to where he came from, which you don't typically do.
But that is exactly the hero story. They come back to where they were,
Yeah, changed,
but
right?
changed. Yeah.
I mean, the hero's journey's absolute horseshit anyway, but yes,
Yes.
it's like so stupid. But yeah, like that's typically how it goes. You come back to the old world with like new wisdom one, and you're a changed person. To pick a simple example, you think about the ending of Lord of the Rings, and it's like they go back to the Shire and like they have all this new knowledge and and then you get the nice undercut of Frodo suddenly realizing like, shit, I can't live like this. Like I'm too changed. Too changed, not two chains, to be clear. Yeah, that is like that's like the prototypical like story arc, I guess. It's kind of how they all go. Yeah, but no, I really like it. I left this book in a very good mood. I had a really good time, sort of where this left me emotionally. And I think like to some of the stuff you guys have already said, it's just really rare to get an apocalypse story that is joyful and is capable of happiness, that isn't just willfully ignoring the material reality of like what an apocalypse looks like, you know? Like they have a little community. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just really, it's a sweet place to end in. You know, Bangley gets a gun friend in Pops. Pops gets, you know, this kind of son-in-law type figure. And Hig finally, you know, is able to work through the pain of losing Jasper, and maybe this is the, you know, they can both start healing. It's just a really lovely place to end in.
Yeah, because in book one, I really thought it was gonna go to a pretty dark place. I thought there was gonna, the relationship between Hig and Bangley, I thought was gonna devolve into like paranoia and suspicion, and like. But it's the opposite happens. Like Bangley, you know, it's a happy ending for Bangley. Like he turns out to be, you know, a not murderous guy, you know, asterisk.
Asterisk.
Yeah. not paranoid and turning on his friend kind of murderous, at least.
Different murderous.
Yeah. Yeah. I like when he wakes up and he sees Cima and he says, Mrs. Bangley? You know, oh no, Mrs. Hig? I mean, yeah. That was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone here kind of gets it. But, you know, I think that Heller does a good job of, in the narration, in the lead up to the ending, he has Hig reflecting on the fact that this is temporary and that, like, he has to enjoy it while it lasts because something will change. And I like that it does that little undercut, so it's not super saccharine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think this could feel very, like, trite, but it doesn't. It just feels, like, peaceful, I guess.
Yeah.
Good book. Any
Great
final thoughts? Feelings?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up?
Good
7 up.
recommendation from whoever, whichever patron that was that recommended
Yes, I don't have it in front of me, but thank you for the recommend.
Yeah, this added a nice like bit of range in our unit. I thought.
Yeah, I think severely lacking, you know, in our existing programming. I mean, maybe we would have got some of this from Pluribus, but definitely a real nice change. Now, I now realize, with a bit of information I have between the last recording and this recording, that there's a reason why this Patreon subscriber suggested this book, which is that it is getting adapted into a film.
Uh-huh.
Now, I will give you 3 guesses of who's directing it. Super famous director. And not the type of director you would think.
Narrow it down. Give us a hint.
Has never directed a romance before. Let me see. What else? I can do hint why. I'm not very good at hints, bad. English.
Oh fuck, what's his name?
Made some of the most influential science fiction films.
Not Danny Boyle.
No, but that's a good guess. That's a really good guess, actually. Very good guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jam, throw one out there.
James Cameron.
Ridley
Not
Scott.
English.
Not far off. Ridley Scott. Isn't that wild?
Ah.
No.
You
No.
were both so
No.
close.
No.
Hang on.
That's not happening.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. Let's do a live trailer reaction, boys. Let
There's
me
a
drop it in-
trailer? Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I'm dropping it in the group chat. We'll do a 3, 2, 1 play like we always do. If you don't have the group chat on your computer, Pat, it's just as
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I hope you mean the Discord chat.
I can't do that while I'm recording.
Okay.
Just
I'll just
Google
look
it.
it up
Should be
then.
the first one that comes up.
Oh, okay, yep. Oh, it's got Australian man.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
He's from our neighborhood. Private school boy.
Okay. Is it 2 minutes 6 seconds?
Yep.
Yep.
That's the
Okay.
one. Jam, tell us when you're ready. Was that a? What? I don't know
Yeah,
what I was doing.
that wasn't clear.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll go 3, 2, 1, play, and then we'll hit play. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
3, 2, 1, play.
Before the world ended,
I mean, it looks
I
good
was kissing my wife,
visually.
playing with my dog.
Jasper!
The world that was doesn't exist.
It's so crazy that it's Ridley Scott.
Here it's just us, trying to hold on to what was.
But out there,
It's kill or be killed. The only thing left to fear.
Is that Guy Pearce, or am I crazy?
Is that guy what?
Is that Guy Pearce
survivors.
playing Bangley?
Oh.
Go.
I heard a voice on the radio
Okay.
saying, "My name is Hick."
I'm Cima.
He's an unknown.
Is that Margaret Qualley? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I know he has real coffee. I miss music. Singing on the way to the grocery store.
I miss the grocery store.
I mean, it looks pretty good, guys. That was just wrong.
They're
It was
gonna
Guy
keep
Pearce for some
coming.
reason.
We can't hold them off forever.
Oh, it is.
Arm up!
Okay. Not crazy.
Move, move, move! Shoot the roof!
Okay.
Oh, I don't remember that.
No, it's not my dog stars. Interesting. Okay.
Looks a bit more exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
as always, everyone's much more hot than I imagine them in the book. but-
So much hotter. That's crazy. Crazy. Guy Pearce and Josh Brolin, shouldn't be allowed in the same room together. That's two of the same guy.
I did not picture Bangley as Josh Brolin, but
No.
okay.
Okay, sure. Well,
I
there you
pictured
go.
him more as like a Jesse Plemons kind of guy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Jesse Plemons vibes. Yeah.
Definitely
How was
amped
I
up the action a whole lot.
It seems like it, yeah. Trying to think of what I was picturing Bangley as. I guess kind of a Josh Brolin type. I guess I was thinking of him as like the guy from who's like the bad guy in like the Avatar films. Like that type of vibe.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? Cool. All right, there you go. So yeah, apparently that the reason they suggested it is that the film is coming out, and they wanted to hear us talk about the film. I was like, well, you tricked me. You did it. Great book. So yeah, we'll have to cover that when it comes out for the Patreon.
Ridley Scott just makes the most random fucking directorial choices.
I mean, I guess it's technically sci-fi, so it's in his wheelhouse. It's just a fucking weird choice. It's very odd.
I mean, he might just literally be a fan of the novel.
I think probably.
Wasn't there one of these others? Was it the Road film that like only got made because whoever was such a fan of the book?
Yeah. Pretty common. It's like you have a novel that you really love and you're like, I'm gonna make that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Looks fun. Crazy cast as well. Like just outrageous selection of people.
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't picture them as Jacob Elordi and Margaret Qualley, but okay.
They said, who are the two most attractive people on the planet right now? We'll get them in there.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, and like I was picturing Pops as like the farmer dad from The Walking Dead. That's who I was picturing Pops as.
Oh, Herschel, yeah.
Herschel, yeah.
Oh, okay. I could see that. Can I be honest? I was picturing him as sort of the a similar vibe with the guy with the pickaxe from Toy Story.
Yeah.
You know him? Yeah, it's kind of that vibe. Yeah. There you go. Okay, I'm excited about that. We'll definitely see it. We'll definitely talk about it. Cool. Hey, JM, do you want to plug your latest?
What is it? Coming out tomorrow, it's already scheduled, is Did Anakin Matter? Which I argue no, he did not. And then I got another one finished up today, so that should hopefully be ready 2 weeks out. Aiming to have a video every Saturday at 6, which will be 6/6, because Order 66, baby.
Okay. Well, that's disappointing. We're good on you. Of course, it's a reference. Next time we are watching and discussing Alfonso Cuarón's seminal apocalypse story, Children of Men. Alfonso Cuarón is one of my favorite directors, and this is one of my favorite films, so I'm very excited to talk about it. It's a good one. Spoilers. James freaking hate it.
Yet you were very underwhelmed at Tom Cruise in his new film.
Yeah, I'm a complicated guy, Pat. I contain multitudes.
I also like Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah,
Wait, I always get him and Inarritu confused. Is Cuarón Birdman and The Revenant?
No,
that's Inarritu. Okay.
Yeah. No, you do this every single time.
Right.
Cuarón's like third Harry Potter film, famously.
Yeah.
He did that recent show that I was telling you guys to watch that you don't watch.
But they're both Mexican directors with a penchant for one shot takes. So
That's true.
It's confusing. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not an understandable thing. It's just this happens literally every time we have a conversation about Alfonso Cuarón. Yeah, he did Gravity as well, which I didn't think was as good. But yeah, whatever. If you'd like to support us, you can head to patreon.com/zeroindent. Supporting us at the $5 tier unlocks the bonus episodes of this show where we watch and talk about supplementary materials. Any support you can give us helps us keep making thoughtful, independent genre studies. We appreciate all of our Patreon subscribers. Help us continue to make the shows and articles that shape Zero Indent. And as always, it's just the end of the show. It's not the end of the world. Zero Indent is an independent publication dedicated to studying works of genre fiction, brought to you by our subscribers. Head to patreon.com/zeroindent to learn more and consider supporting us. Our theme song is The Swan by Alon Peretz. Our podcast cover art is by Crystal Hatay. Everything else is written, directed, and edited by me, DC McNeill. You can find our merch and books at underink.press and everything we do at zeroindent.com.